Hello folks, how's it going? Hope everybody is having a good day and you're all doing well. Gonna make sure that everything's settled down here. And I can sit down and have a blooming good rant about the old world. Because you all know how much I do enjoy me some classic Warhammer goodness. If you like what I'm doing here, the subscribe button is down below, the Patreon button is also down below for those of you who want to continue supporting me, and please make sure that you follow not only Composite Games to get yourself some really cool models, but also that if you want to be involved in the prize draw, that it is coming this Sunday the 8th. And if you want to be involved in there, all you need to do is be a part of the Patreon, or be a part of, be a member of the channel. Do either of those two things and it gets you one instant entry into that prize draw, in which you get £100 worth of free models if you win. So that prize draw will be Sunday, make sure you're around for that. Let's carry on with this. Essentially, what does your Warhammer Fantasy Battles army say about you? You all know I'm a big believer in the old world, and then it should have stayed around and it should have never have been annihilated as it was. That is a big thing that I actually believe. Fun fact, I actually got into Warhammer Fantasy Battles before 40k, but 40k sort of seduced me away from Warhammer Fantasy Battles back in the day because of how flashy and in-depth it was. But one thing I want you to realise is, I'm a moron, I'm an idiot, and these are all opinion-based, right? So, I will put 3 points to every single army in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and if you're not in this one, you will be in the next one, okay? But I've gotten quite a few in here, so I think you are all in here somewhere. I'm not going to do sub-factions. These are the main factions of Warhammer 40,000, not Warhammer 40,000, bless my mouth, sorry, Warhammer Fantasy Battles, alright? Got it? Good. Excellent. Please don't get offended, let's jump in. Number 1, the Empire. They have to be first, don't they? They just have to be first. Number 1, if you like the Empire, and you're an Empire builder or an Empire player in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, well, the number 1 thing about you, you have a secret thing for strong jawlines. And have an unhealthy love for the aesthetic of the Thief games. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Number 2, humans rule in your opinion, and in a D&D game, you always play as a human. Why? Because you're a human in real life, and you don't need to be this pointy-eared prancing moron to be able to get representation in a fictional setting. Number 3, Sigmarines can go suck a fat one. Repeating muskets are the way forwards. Here's the thing. I don't know anybody who's campaigned against Age of Sigmar more than Empire players. It's weird. Because you would think they'd be like, yeah, well, games, we're the good boys, and we're all for Games Workshop doing things. But mostly it's been Empire players, at least to me, who've been like, this is absolutely shocking, we hate this, we don't like these Sigmarines, we don't like them, they're a bit weird. Put it this way, anybody who tells you that they're not just based on Space Marines is lying to you. Why? Because a good 60% of my Space Marine army is made up of Stormcast Eternal models. That should show you everything you need to know about the design of those models. Moving on. Bretonnia. Here we go. Number 1. If you like Bretonians, you have a serious fetish for anything Arthurian as an Englishman, but are completely unaware that most of the legends of Arthur are actually French in origin. Yeah. If you want to see what Arthur would look like in an Anglo-Saxon England, you need to have a look at the Kingdom of Rohan in Lord of the Rings instead. Number 2, you are a simp. Sorry mate, there's no easy way to say it. You follow the Lady of the Lake to do whatever she says as she is a goddess sort of thing, okay. But yeah, you're probably into kissing feet too, right? And in a bit too much of a weird way. Number 3, feudalism at all costs in your opinion. You don't really get that the setting has moved on from the Age of Knights to the Age of Black Powder, and don't want to admit that a small army from the Empire could wipe out your entire civilization in months. The only reason they don't is to keep you as a shield, as a meat shield for other things in the world. But hey, at least your horse is pretty. Moving on. Orcs and Goblins. Sorry, Bretonians, you got a real kicking there. Orcs and Goblins. Number 1. You are the OG wargaming hobbyist. Oh yeah, the OG wargaming hobbyist. Or you are to the rest of us what the Thunder Warriors are to Space Marines of the 41st millennium. Think about it. If you know an old Orc player from back in the day, you know, in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, you know what I mean. They are the OG wargaming hobbyists. And they are Thunder Warriors to our normal, modern Space Marines. Number 2. You look at strictly 40k Orc players as troglodytes, who have taken everything you established and reduced it to a meme. You are not fungus people. 40k Orcs need mythical beginnings and a reproduction cycle. What do we know of your fantasy Orcs? They like to fight. Job done. Move on, 40k scrubs. Number 3. You will argue that Grimgor Ironhide can beat Ghazghkull on his worst day with no tech upgrades needed until your opponent collapses from exhaustion. This is a battle, in your opinion, that needs to be won. On to High Elves. High Elves. Oh dear. Number 1. You pass over all of the memes and hateful glances from other players. You play the best army in terms of in-law power, and are continually fixing everybody else's mistakes, like a tired parent. Number 2. In fact, you and Orc players are 2 different types of dads. But you're both dads. This is what I mean. I know a hell of a lot of dudes from back in the day, right? From back in my old Games Workshop days of going to it when I was a kid and being around Warhammer all the time, all of the Orc and Elf players were all somebody's dad. I don't know why. They were all jolly dads. It's weird. Number 3. Unlike Eldar players from 40k, you find the constant hentai and lusting images of your elf women by lesser races to be tiresome at best. Unlike the Wood Elf players, but we will get to those later. Moving on. Dwarves. Oh, here we go. Number 1. If you like Dwarves, you are a man of taste and culture. You most likely look like some form of the YouTuber Bordic Broadcast and probably look and act like him too. Number 2. Boy, do you bear a grudge. Literally, you are the embodiment of someone like me when I talk about space wolves and the disregard for the lore of 40k. Any slight or insult hurled at your favourite army is grounds for instant browbeating. And number 3, you are secretly ashamed of what your dwarves look like when they run. Be honest, it's time to come clean. They look like muscular children who are desperately trying to not shit their pants. Moving on. Tomb Kings. Number 1, and I know this has been asked for quite a few times, so if you're a Tomb Kings fan, number 1, you're a big fan of the Mummy, obviously, and wish that Rome 2 Total War had the Egyptians from the original Total War in them, rather than the cosplaying Greeks that we have. Even though that's more historically accurate. But anyway, number 2, you applaud, like I do, Games Workshop shifting the vampire focus to the Tomb Kings to give them an ancient past. You are the most 40k faction of the setting, aside from the Lizardmen, as your lore goes that far back, and you love it. Number 3, you firmly believe you have the greatest line ever said by somebody in Games Workshop lore ever in your faction. And it goes as follows. Cetra does not serve. Cetra rules. This is a guy who was offered revenge against Nagash by the Chaos Gods. And instead of falling for it like some backwash 40k character, he goes to fight Nagash and kills thousands to get to him, only to slap him across the head, tell him he will claim his head on his own when he's good and ready, after he's killed the Chaos Gods for daring to offer him revenge as their servant. That's a character right there, and you're very proud of the fact that he's part of your faction and nobody else's. Lizardmen. This is quite a simple one, this one. Lizardmen. Number 1, you love one of 2 things. Aztecs, or dinosaurs, and sometimes you like both. You like to fiddle yourself over Jurassic Park most of the time, let's be honest. Number 2, you firmly believe your guys in the old ones gave birth to the Warhammer 40,000 setting, and you have a hearty chuckle all the time about it and the madness you wrought over there. And number 3, you look down on everyone, including the Elves, for daring to think that they are the main antagonist to Chaos. Chaos is your enemy. Everybody else is just cosplaying and getting in the way. Moving on. Wood Elves. Number 1. You have a weird lust for that Alariel model and her legs. You're all weirdos. Number 2. You have dropped all the pretense of somebody like Bretonnia, like a Bretonnian fan, and just prefer to lust after your elf women in the open like a Chad. Number 3. Your tabletop gameplay style can be described as, I'm going to annoy you until you quit, I hope you enjoy fucking arrows. Moving on. Vampire counts. Oh boy, do you love your stories. You probably come in your pants thinking about Castlevania, don't you? Let's be honest. You've watched that Netflix series a few times. You're all in there. You like drama. You like basically violent Twilight. That'd be your most ideal thing. Number 2. You either hate or you love Manfred von Karstein. Most of you hate him because he has a ridiculous name, does ridiculous things, and is essentially trying to be someone like Cetra without realising he's a bit of a chode. Number 3. Yes, vampire fans, we know Isabella exists. Can you stop talking about her? You are really into old school vampire Halloween costumes and the undead. I mean, why not? You also are very proud of the fact that you have the greatest beasts in Warhammer in total. And that includes 40k as well. You have the best beasts. You have the undead armies have the best beasts. It just is what it is. Ogre Kingdoms. Well, here's one that's going to be slightly less controversial, at least for me. Number 1. You like to talk about lore a lot, and it can be how it can be constructed in elegant ways. Essentially, you're me, just a bit less obnoxious. Number 2. If you like Ogre Kingdoms, while you admire what the orcs are trying to do, you think with a little more brain power, riches, and food, they can be having some real fun. And number 3, yes, you are well aware that your army and the ogres are essentially, they resemble really fat Mongol warriors, but you overlook that. You have an army of Kublai Khans from that Marco Polo show. You're winning. Next, Dark Elves. Oh god. Alright. Okay. Needed to take a sip of tea there. Dark Elves. Wow. Number 1, wow. You like drama even more than those vampire dudes. You have some serious resentful mummy issues that are going on. Number 2, you honestly don't think the Numenorians, the Dark Ones, of the Lord of the Rings went far enough. Where are their black arcs? If you're gonna be a pirate, be a fucking pirate. Don't just cosplay as one, be one. Number 3, you think the Dark Eldar are posers whose lore is actually kind of silly and misses the point of not wanting to be devoured by Slaanesh upon death. You don't need convoluted reasons. Weird sex is good. You can even have pets if you're a dark elf and be like Rakarth, master of beasts. Fun times. And now for the most controversial one that I know is going to get me a bit of hate. Warriors of Chaos. Number 1. In your opinion, heavy metal is the greatest genre of music ever, and nobody will ever be able to convince you otherwise. If your army art does not look like a metal album cover, you are failing at life. Number 2. You secretly resent Archeon because he's not as much like Conan the Barbarian as you'd like, and you don't like how much of a Mary Sue he is. But at least he schools on idiots like Abaddon the Despoiler, Actually, about that, Chaos Space Marines to you are fucking pussies. Even Duke Nukem knows that power armor is for pussies. If you're not going to war with your natural muscle out, glistening and shining for the gods to see, what the hell is the fucking point? Number 3. You lord it over everybody. Everybody. And I mean in 40k and normal Warhammer both. Nobody can hold a candle to you. Why? You won. You are the only army ever in Warhammer or Warhammer 40k to ever win. Like, actually win. An eternal win at the end of an entire setting. You won. This is tainted for you, though, as you'd rather not win and just keep having fun. Am I right or am I right? Every Chaos player I know just has this warring thing inside of them of, I'm really glad that we won, but my god, I wish we didn't. I wish the old world was still here. And that brings me back to the main point. When the old world does come back, it won't be the same. We've lost it. It's gone. And that sucks ass, guys. That sucks ass. Imagine being a part of the army that destroyed a setting as good as Warhammer the Old World, Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Yes, you've got that, you know, that feather in your cap forever from now on, but that's it, dude. It's gone. It's gone. And it's your fault. Well, no, it's not your fault. It's Games Workshop's fault, because they wrote it. Go fuck yourselves, you know? Go fuck... If you wrote that, go fuck yourselves. The end times were an abomination and should never have been a thing, and I will stand by that until the day I die. Awful, 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 awful stuff. So, that was the Warhammer the Old World. Oh my god, breathless. If there are any armies that I missed, please put them in the comment section down below, and I will do them next time. I will not be doing sub-factions, because to be honest with you, a lot of the sub-factions just cover what we already have. So, like, for instance, like the Daughters of Cain, things, you know, you'll be essentially very much like people from Slaanesh, and, you know, you meld into each other, which is why I'm not doing really tiny armies from Warhammer 40k either. But, anyway, I love you all a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more hobby nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.